She made sweet tea every Sunday, knew every neighbor's name. But behind that smile was a name they buried, and a truth they hoped no one would ever dig up. In a quiet black suburban neighborhood in North Carolina, 16-year-old Jamari helps his elderly neighbor, Miss Thelma, with groceries every week. She's the sweet widow with homemade cornbread and a Bible verse for every problem. But when a minor house fire brings the fire department, a background check pings on a decades-old federal watch list. Thelma's identity is flagged as a possible alias for a woman who vanished in 1978 after being implicated in a politically motivated armored truck heist linked to a black liberation group. At first, no one believes it. Not the church ladies, not her former students, not even the local sheriff who grew up on her street. But Jamari, curious and tech-savvy, begins digging into digital archives, uncovering clues that don't add up: fake property records, no Social Security activity before 1982, and one old photograph from a 1970s FBI bulletin that looks just like her, standing next to a man with a rifle and a raised fist. The truth? Miss Thelma was once a wanted revolutionary, and someone's finally come to finish what they started. Before we uncover today's case, a quick reminder. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single clue, twist, or breakthrough in the stories to come. Now, let's dive into the case. It started with a siren, not the kind that wails through downtown Charlotte, echoing off glass buildings and construction cranes. This one cut through the stillness of a cul-de-sac where nothing ever happened, at least not on paper. The fire truck rolled up slow. No rush, just cautious. Smoke curled lazily from the roof of the tiny white house with the peeling red shutters at the corner of Loblolly Lane. Jamari Jenkins had already beaten them there, barefoot, hoodie half on, holding a garden hose that was too weak to matter. "Back up, son," one of the firefighters said gently. "We got it from here." Jamari didn't argue. He just stepped aside and watched the old woman in the rocking chair, the one neighbors called Miss Thelma, sip sweet tea like it was any other Tuesday, like her living room wasn't currently smoldering. She looked unfazed, almost like she'd been through worse. They all said she was harmless. A sweet old widow who made pecan pies for the church bake sale and knew every child's name on the block. People swore she'd lived there since forever, long before the gated subdivisions and Starbucks drive-thrusts crept into the outskirts of Charlotte. Jamari knew better. Or maybe he just saw what others didn't. She never let anyone past the front room. She always paid in cash, even for big repairs. And once, when he helped carry her groceries inside, he swore she flinched at the sound of a car backfiring. 3 days after the fire, Jamari was back on her porch, fixing the busted screen door hinge with his daddy's old drill. "You got good hands, child," Miss Thelma said behind him, sipping from that chipped blue mug she always used. "Your mama raised you right." He gave her a half smile. She tried. "You remind me of somebody I used to know," she said, "back when the world was loud." Jamari raised an eyebrow but didn't push. She always talked like that, like her memories were locked in fog. Poetic, careful. But that afternoon, when the mailman came up the steps with a certified envelope, Miss Thelma stiffened. "Need me to sign for you, Mom?" he asked. She shook her head slowly, voice suddenly thin. "No ... that one's for me." Jamari glanced at the envelope as she took it. Plain white, no return address, but the postmark read Newark, New Jersey. Her hand trembled just enough for him to notice. Later that night, while scrolling through Reddit, Jamari got curious. He typed "Black Female Fugitives 1970s" into a search bar. At first, it was just Wikipedia pages and old news clippings. But one link caught his eye, an archived FB I wanted poster from 1978, yellowed and grainy. A woman stood in the photo, afro puffed high, fist raised. Her expression was calm but burning, like fire frozen in time. Jamari blinked. Her cheekbones, that dimple. Even in black and white, it looked exactly like Miss Thelma. His stomach dropped. He didn't sleep that night. Not because he was scared, but because something in him needed to know. Who was she, really? And why had she never told anyone what she ran from? Miss Thelma sat by her window that next morning, same as always, wrapped in her faded maroon shawl like armor. Steam curled from her coffee mug, untouched. She was staring out across her front yard like it was a battlefield, only she could still see. Across the street, Jamari sat on his porch steps, phone in his palm, heart hammering slow but heavy. That photo still haunted him. It wasn't just a resemblance. It was her. He was sure now. The shape of her jaw, the slight gap in her front teeth, the scar above her left eyebrow. The caption beneath the photo read, "Felicia Mae Johnson, armed and wanted, affiliated with ballet, suspected in the 1978 iron-bound armored car heist, last seen in Newark, NJ, presumed dangerous." He looked up again. She was pulling weeds. That afternoon, Jamari asked to help her clean out the garage. Just something simple, a reason to be close, to dig around. Miss Thelma didn't say yes right away. Her eyes narrowed just enough to raise his skin. "You got homework?" "Summer break," he said. She nodded once and handed him the key. "Don't break nothing." The garage was hotter than sign and smelled like mothballs and old gasoline. Tools lined the walls, all neatly labeled. Nothing seemed out of place until he reached a tall rusted filing cabinet tucked behind a stack of suitcases. He tugged one drawer open. Inside were papers, old ones, yellowed deeds, a hand-drawn map of a highway exit, and a folded-up copy of the Black Panther newspaper from 1976. He opened it slowly. A section had been cut out, right in the middle. A missing photo. Then he heard her voice behind him. "You were always too curious, Jamari." He jumped, heart stuttering. She wasn't mad. Not exactly. Just tired. She didn't ask why he was snooping. Didn't raise her voice or slam the cabinet shut. She stepped inside the garage like she was stepping into a time capsule, brushing her hand across the metal drawers like greeting an old ghost. "You see something you don't understand?" she asked. Jamari held up the newspaper. "You were in this." Silence. Then, for the first time in the years he'd known her, Miss Thelma didn't deflect. She just exhaled. "My name ain't Thelma," she said, voice soft like linen worn thin. "It's Felicia." They sat side by side in the garage as the sun dipped low, shadows climbing the walls. "I was 22 when I ran," she said. "Had a degree, a fiancé, and too much fire in my chest to stay quiet. We thought we were going to build something. Fight the system from the inside out. Then a truck went missing. One man died. And they blamed the whole damn movement." Jamari listened in silence. They wanted someone to hang it on. Somebody they could make an example out of. "I wasn't even there that night. But it didn't matter. I was young, black, and loud. You ran?" I disappeared, she said. Changed everything. Hair, name, even my handwriting. Got baptized at a church 5 states away and never looked back. Jamari swallowed. But you were innocent. Felicia smiled bitter. Baby, this country don't wait to find that out. Later that night, Jamari sat in his room, phone screen lighting his face. He pulled up the case again. The armored truck robbery in Newark. $600,000 missing. 2 suspects arrested. 1 escaped. Felicia Mae Johnson. Presumed dead or hidden. But now he knew where she was. And someone else might too. Because that envelope, the one with no return address, was sitting on her kitchen table when he left. He'd seen the corner of what looked like a photo sticking out. And something about it looked like a warning. Felicia didn't open the envelope that night. She left it sitting by the fruit bowl, like it hadn't already stolen sleep from the air in her house. By morning, she'd moved it to the drawer under the stove. That's where she put things she didn't want to face. Medical bills, unopened birthday cards, a son's letter she never sent back. Jamari didn't ask about it again. He just showed up after breakfast, like usual, walking past the front bush with his shoulders low and his hoodie up. Not because it was cold, because he was starting to feel something wasn't right. There was a car parked 2 doors down, a black Ford Crown Vic with tinted windows. Jamari didn't recognize it. But the way it just sat there, engine off, driver never getting out, sent a chill down his spine. It looked like a leftover from an old surveillance movie, like something that belonged in the background of a memory Felicia had tried to bury. Inside, the mood was different. The house always smelled like lemon oil and cinnamon, but that morning it smelled like burned paper. Felicia was standing by the sink with rubber gloves on, her lips tight, hair wrapped in a scarf. Her Bible was open on the counter, but she wasn't reading it. She was staring out the window, watching the Crown Vic too. You know that car? Jamari asked. She didn't answer, just pulled the gloves off and poured hot water into a chipped mug. Her hands were trembling, even if her voice wasn't. They used to drive them just like that. Long hoods, no license plate in the front, 1 man inside. Never got out, just watched. You think they found you? He whispered. She turned slowly, and for a moment, the sweet old lady from down the street was gone. In her place was a soldier, weary, sharp, and ready. I think they never stopped looking. The envelope had no return address, but now it had scorch marks along the edge. She tried to burn it, but only got halfway through before something in her made her stop. She handed it to Jamari wordlessly. Inside was a photo, faded but clear. It showed her, younger, in a leather jacket, arms around a man Jamari didn't recognize. They were standing on a rooftop, the city skyline behind them, and taped to the back of the photo was a single message written in red pen. You left. He didn't. Jamari looked up. Who's he? Felicia sat down slowly in the wooden kitchen chair, as if her legs no longer belonged to her. My brother, she said. Langston? Jamari had never heard her talk about family before. Thought he was dead, she said, voice almost a whisper. We split up after the Newark job went sideways. I went south. He stayed. Said he could fix things from inside. She laughed bitterly. There ain't no inside when they already buried you. Jamari flipped the photo again. So this means... What? He's alive? Felicia didn't speak for a long moment. Then she reached into her sweater and pulled out something on a chain around her neck. A small key. He had a safety deposit box, Jersey City. If he left anything behind, it'd be there. Jamari leaned forward, pulse climbing. You gonna go? I can't. I'm a ghost down here? Up there? I'm a fugitive? He stared at her. So let me go. She blinked, startled. I'm serious, he said. You've looked out for this whole neighborhood for years. You fed me when we had nothing in the fridge. Let me return it. She shook her head. You're just a child. I'm 17, he snapped. And I'm not scared. I'm angry. Angry that the world stole your name and never gave it back. Felicia stared at him, eyes glassy. You don't know what you're asking for, she said. Jamari held out his hand. Then tell me what to look for. Outside, the Crown Vic pulled away. No sound. No rush. Just a slow, deliberate retreat, like whoever sat behind the wheel had seen enough, for now. Inside, Felicia walked to her bookshelf, pulled down a hollowed-out copy of Invisible Man, and slipped the small key into Jamari's hand. I don't need the money, she whispered. Then what do you need? Felicia looked him square in the eyes. A name cleared, a brother found, and the truth finally told before I die. Jamari left that Friday night under the cover of Small Lies. Told his mama he was staying at Dre's house to help with a summer class project. Told Dre to cover for him if she called. Told himself this wasn't insane. But deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't just leaving town. He was crossing into someone else's story, one that had been running for nearly 50 years without an ending. The Greyhound station in downtown Charlotte felt like it hadn't changed since 1982. Faded blue seats. Old vending machines humming like they were dying. A mother rocking a crying toddler in the corner. Two tired-looking security guards arguing over barbecue sauce behind a cracked glass window. Jamari clutched his backpack tighter. Inside was nothing special. A phone charger, 2 ham sandwiches, and a copy of Invisible Man with a tiny brass key taped to the back cover. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. He just slid into the back row of the 9:35 p.m. bus to Jersey City and watched the streets blur into shadows. By the time they reached D.C., the woman in the seat next to him had nodded off against the window. Jamari couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the photo. About Felicia, Miss Thelma, sitting alone in that house with the envelope still half burned on the table. And about the message. You left. He didn't. What kind of person writes that after 40 years? Jersey City hit different. It wasn't loud. Not exactly, just heavy. Like the pavement had absorbed generations of footsteps and refused to forget any of them. He walked from the bus terminal to the nearest branch of First Unity Federal Credit Union, with his hoodie low and his heart punching against his ribs. The place was brick, old school, with bulletproof glass and a metal detector at the door. A bored woman in a maroon cardigan barely looked up when he approached. You the one with the deposit box? She asked, like she already knew. Yeah, Jamari said, reaching for the key. Her eyes shifted, just briefly. ID? He froze. Felicia didn't give him that part. I don't have it. I was told the key would be enough. The woman narrowed her eyes, then leaned back. One moment. She disappeared into the back. Jamari stood alone, palms sweating. If this blew up, he was a 17-year-old black kid asking to access a 40-year-old deposit box in a city he didn't belong to. He was one phone call away from becoming someone's incident report. But then the woman returned with a small gray box and set it gently on the counter. She didn't smile, didn't ask anything else. "Don't open it here," she said. Jamari nodded. Outside, he ducked into a nearby alley next to an old bail bonds shop, squatted behind a trash bin, and pried open the box. Inside was a faded passport with the name Langston Everett Johnson, a cassette tape marked KEEP Listening, a manila folder labeled Millstone 1978, Ward D, and a crumpled receipt for a storage unit dated April 7, 1996. Unit number 212. Redland Lock and Keep, Bayonne, NJ. Jamari's pulse spiked. Ward D, Millstone. That was a prison hospital upstate. Closed down years ago, after a corruption scandal. He remembered reading about it in one of his Hidden America podcasts. But why would Langston have files on that place? And why keep it all secret? He pulled out his phone and started searching. Redland Lock and Keep, Bayonne. Still open. He stood up, dusted off his jeans, and shoved the box back into his backpack. He didn't notice the black Chevy parked across the street. Didn't notice the man in a faded bomber jacket watching him from behind tinted sunglasses. But the man noticed him, watched him walk, watched him run, then picked up a phone and said only 2 words. "The boy's moving." Back in Charlotte, Felicia sat in her front room with the lights off. She had a pistol on the table, unloaded but polished. The Crown Vic hadn't returned. But something told her that was worse, because real danger didn't knock. It waited until you opened the door. The storage facility looked like it hadn't blinked in 20 years. Rows of rusted red units stretched beneath a buzzing gray sky. The kind of place folks used to hide tax records, wedding dresses, or secrets with expiration dates. Jamari stood at the gate, the receipt trembling slightly in his hand. Unit number 212, a corner unit, far from the office, out of camera range. The clerk barely looked up when he handed it over. 5-minute rule, the man said. Door stays open. You touch it, you pay rent. Jamari nodded and walked down the corridor alone, the gravel crunching underfoot, each step louder than the last. The kind of loud that made you feel followed, even if no one was there. He found it, slid the key into the padlock. Fingers slick with sweat. Click. The door rolled up with a metallic groan. Inside was a single metal shelf, a dusty folding chair, and 3 boxes. No gold bars, no weapons, just cardboard and dust. Jamari stepped inside and knelt in front of the largest box, pulled the flaps back. Inside were old cassette tapes, labeled in careful handwriting. Testimonies, Ward D, Langston, Session 3, 1978 intercepts. The second box held medical files, dozens of them, typed notes, Polaroids, and handwritten charts. Everyone stamped Millstone Correctional Health Center Intake Ward D. And the third? The third box held photos. Black men strapped to gurneys. Women with shaved heads. Children gawed. They looked like kids in orange jumpsuits. Eyes vacant, some holding signs with numbers written in red ink. It didn't look like justice. It looked like an experiment. Jamari's throat closed. He took a step back and nearly tripped over the chair. That's when he saw the envelope taped beneath it. Yellow, fragile, sealed. He peeled it off and opened it. Inside was a letter, written in cursive on thin, lined paper. He read aloud, barely above a whisper. If you're reading this, you found what I couldn't finish. I thought I could expose them, thought the truth mattered. But when the people meant to heal you are the same ones recording your screams, there's nowhere to run. They called it therapy. It was torture. They called us unstable. We were just loud, angry, awake. Ward D wasn't a hospital. It was a burial site for the conscious black mind. L.E.J. Jamari's hand trembled. He suddenly felt watched. He turned. A figure stood at the end of the corridor. Not the storage clerk, not a neighbor. Tall, military posture. Holding something long in his hand. A camera. Or maybe something worse. Jamari slammed the box shut and bolted. He sprinted through the rows, out the gate, down the block. The man didn't follow, at least not that he could see. But that didn't mean he was alone. By the time he reached the bus stop, his breath was shallow, lungs burning. He climbed onto the back of the Route 119 and dropped into a seat, gripping the envelope against his chest. The bus pulled away. The man didn't appear again. But Jamari saw a black SUV pass the other direction, slow, like it wasn't headed anywhere fast. Back in Charlotte, Felicia stood over her sink, watching the street again. The mail had come early. There was only one thing in her box, a small square photograph of Jamari, standing in front of a storage unit. The corner read, 212, Bayonne. She dropped it. The cup in her hand shattered. Her knees buckled slightly. They'd found him. It was nearly midnight when Jamari stepped off the last Greyhound back into Charlotte. No luggage, no jacket, just a backpack that now felt like it weighed 100 years. The city looked different, quieter, suspicious, like the shadows had grown ears. He didn't go straight home. He walked 6 blocks, turned left by the Walgreens, right past the corner with the crooked street lamp, until he stood in front of her house again, Miss Thelma's. Except now he couldn't think of her that way. She wasn't just the sweet lady who gave out strawberry jam jars at Christmas. She was Felicia Mae Johnson, fugitive, freedom fighter, forgotten. The porch light was off, but the door cracked open before he knocked. "You got followed?" she asked, voice low and sharp. Jamari stepped inside, locked the door behind him. No, switched buses twice. Tossed my phone at a truck stop in Virginia. Felicia exhaled slowly, then nodded toward the couch. Sit. He placed the cassette tapes on her coffee table like holy artifacts, laid the photos next to them. Then he pulled out the final envelope, the one with Langston's letter. Her hands didn't shake this time. She opened it, read every line, didn't cry, just sat back, closed her eyes, and let silence hang like incense in the room. "They tested on us," she finally whispered. "Used our rage as proof, our silence as permission." Jamari nodded. "And no one ever stopped them. No one even looked." Felicia leaned forward. "Langston tried. That's why he stayed. That's what got him killed." Jamari's throat tightened. "You think he's dead?" She looked at him, eyes darker than he'd ever seen. "Not just dead, erased." They worked through the night, scanning files, copying photos, uploading audio to an encrypted drive Jamari found on Reddit. He sent copies to 10 people, activists, journalists, one professor at Howard who owed Felicia a favor. By dawn, the folder was public, titled simply, "Ward D, the Files They Forgot." Within hours, it started spreading. A black podcast picked it up first. Then a freelance reporter dropped a midnight article. Long-lost tapes revealed torture program in defunct NJ prison hospital. The internet took it from there. By evening, the press was at the end of Loblolly Lane. Police cruisers, too. And one dark sedan that didn't wear a badge. But Felicia stood on her porch, calm, back straight, scarf tied tight like a crown. She didn't flinch when they read her name, didn't tremble when they cuffed her hands. She just looked at Jamari and nodded once, not in fear, not in regret, in peace. 2 weeks later, a federal judge reviewed her case, determined the charges no longer served the interest of justice. Felicia Mae Johnson walked free, not because they forgave her, but because the world finally believed her. Jamari never said much in interviews, just told the truth when asked. She was the reason I believed in right and wrong, even when right ran and wrong had a badge. He turned 18 the next month, didn't go to prom, didn't apply to college right away. He had other plans. The tapes inspired a full investigation. Congress subpoenaed what was left of Millstone's records. Some were gone. Most were burned, but not all, because Jamari made sure nothing stays buried forever. Epilogue. A new mural appeared on the side of the old library. It showed a woman in a head wrap, holding a cassette in one hand and a book in the other. Below her, a quote. "They tried to erase us, but we archived our own names. FMJ, the end." If you felt something watching this, don't scroll past it, because the next case is like this. It's already on its way, somewhere, and the silence around it is already forming. This story wasn't about drama. It was about reality, about broken systems, blind spots, and decisions made too late. You don't need to be a detective to see the pattern. You just need to pay attention. So before it happens again, speak up. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Push for accountability. Don't wait for the cuffs or the body count. Your voice matters more than you know. Like, share, comment. Be part of the reason it doesn't happen again.